Welcome to the Presbyterian Research Center. My name is Monty Collier. In this video, I will be discussing why the Papacy thinks our Constitution and Bill of Rights is a heresy they call Americanism. Did you know Roman Catholicism, Romanism for short, teaches that the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights is a heresy? It calls Americanism. Did you know that? It's true. Roman Catholicism teaches that the Roman Pontiff, the Pope, is infallible and has authority to rule over the spiritual and temporal realms of this world. Romanism teaches that kings rule by divine right. No bishop, no king. Popery maintains that kings rule by the approval of the Roman Pontiff. Papists underscored the significance of Charlemagne being crowned by Pope Leo III on 25 December 800, thus becoming what would later be called Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Romanists think this event demonstrates that kings derive their authority from the papacy and rule by divine right on the authority of the Roman Pontiff. The idea of this popery was that Pope Leo III had transferred the empire from the Greeks to the Germans, and so implying that the Pope's successors had the power to make such changes as well. In this scheme, the king's authority to rule is dependent upon the Roman Pontiff. Much of history argues that this coronation was illegal and done without approval of Charlemagne, who was said to be furious and understood the subversive implications of the event. Since the United States Constitution establishes the government of these United States on the authority of the people, not the Roman Pontiff, the papacy considers our government to be heretical and in opposition to the Roman Catholic faith. The Constitution of the United States assumes the people have private individual judgment to decide for themselves what to believe. Where did this notion of private individual judgment come from? This principle or doctrine was rediscovered during the Protestant Reformation, which is officially said to have commenced on 31 October 1517. The doctrine of private individual judgment is a Calvinist teaching based on Scripture alone. Sola Scriptura is what we Calvinists call it. It is not taught by Romanism, which rejects the Bible to be the sole authority in matters of faith and practice. Papists reject the doctrine of private individual judgment as heresy. Instead, Popery teaches that all men must surrender their judgment to the Roman Pontiff of the Catholic Church and obey all his commands upon pain of eternal damnation. Look up Unum Sanctum. The teaching that you must not submit to the authority of Scripture alone, but surrender your reason to the Pope of Rome upon pain of damnation is called implicit faith. Jesus never tells us to surrender our judgment to any human teacher, be that teacher a member of an ecclesiastical institution or a civil institution. Instead, Jesus, who is God and the author of the Bible, tells each one of us to beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Matthew 7:15. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. John 7:24. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. 1 John 4:1. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. Psalms 146:3. Because men naturally descending from Adam are born totally depraved and inclined towards all manner of evil, we are to obey the government, and all civil governments are made up of men, as long as they do not require us to sin against God. See Romans 13:1. But we are not allowed to obey any church or government when they require us to violate God's moral law. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. Acts 5:29. A careful reading of chapter 3 of the book of Daniel shows 3 gospel believers publicly refusing to obey the unjust law of the king, even when threatened with death. Go read that chapter. So the lust that the papacy has to rule the world should not be taken lightly. It's cost many a person their lives. It's a very real thing, and since the Pope is Antichrist, it's never a good thing when he gets power to kill those who disagree with his hellish dominion. The Bible clearly teaches us to be very careful when it comes to giving power to sinful men. Due to total depravity, they have a tendency to use their power, the power given to them, and not for good. Even rulers must be under the law, so they might be restrained from evil. Behold, thou hast spoken and done evil things as thou couldest. Jeremiah 3 verse 5. Speaking of the Pope's claim of having authority over the civil rulers of this world, and what it means for the people of the United States, R.W. Thompson, writing back in the 1800s, writes the following, and I quote, when does the Pope speak ex cathedra? When he declares the faith, says his followers. What is the faith? It is the law of God, or whatsoever is founded upon it, or is the necessary consequence of it. Therefore, when the Pope thus gives his approval to the doctrine that is a part of the law of God, that kings govern by divine right, it is necessarily a part of faith, and must be believed as such by all the faithful. To reject it would be heresy. End quote. The Papacy in Civil Power, chapter 6, that was page 186. Today there are many movements that are attacking our United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, and there are a few Calvinists left to defend the American way. Claims that institutional racism are written into the Constitution and that the American Revolution was fought to preserve slavery are being daily proliferated by people on the left. They feel that their revisionary history is reason enough the Constitution should be execrated. These useful idiots offer nothing to put in the place of the Constitution and Bill of Rights. But with the amount of Roman Catholic illegal immigration coming into our country, it would seem the papacy would be the one to benefit. Now that America has fallen away from its Protestant roots, do you think Rome sees an opportunity to eliminate what it calls the heresy of Americanism? Think about that. People, God bless, and I love you all.